Would you please welcome to the stage for our keynote presentation, the man from La Liga. He's the Managing Director, Southeast Asia, Australia, South Korea, Japan, Mr. Ivan Codina. And Ivan, it's all yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Ivan, or Ivan, and it's a big pleasure to be here at Gold Coast. First time for me, and a real honor as well to be here at the Morning in Sports, together with all these great experts in the industry, as well as this beautiful audience. So I would like to thank Jason and Lou Stika for the kind invite, and also to greet the team, to putting such a great, event together. So once again, thank you. And but before we start, just a bit about myself. I'm currently heading the La Liga regional office in Singapore. I look after the entire Southeast Asia market, Japan, Korea, and Australia. But actually, our Australia guy is Glenn, my colleague who is sitting hiding in the audience. So Glenn is our delegate for Australia. And I have been already in Asia for 10 years. So I had a few roles before joining La Liga. So before I was with La Liga, I was working for Dentsu, a Japanese agency, where I was heading the football business in the regional office in Singapore. And I also work for the Singapore Sports Council. So, okay, before we go into business or my actual sharing, I am very curious to test how much this audience knows about La Liga. So here I'm suggesting a quick icebreaker in form of a true or false quiz. So very simple, just raise your hands if you think is a true answer, or just leave it down if you think it's false. So I think it's pretty easy, so let's get started. So question number one, Atletico Madrid are known as the Colchoneros, or translated from Spanish as the mattress men. Yes, as in not maybe the most glamorous, sorry, I don't know if it's, yeah. I think it's not clicking. Yeah, sorry about that. So, like I was saying, so they're known as the mattress men. So do you think that is a true or a false? Anyone thinks it's a true? Yeah, these are the real La Liga fans, I guess. All right, so yes, the answer is true. And although some people say it's because they always bounce back, the truth is that they were given this nickname because of their striped kit that resembles the Spain mattresses back in the early 20th century. So question number two. Sociedad Deportiva Eibar Stadium is the smallest of any club in La Liga and can only fit 7,000 spectators. Do you think that is true, false? Only one person thinks it's true, everybody else thinks it's false. All right, the answer is true. Eibar is known as the smallest club in history to play in the top tier of not just La Liga, but actually in Europe. That to host only 7,000 people in the stadium is a small city that has about 25,000 people living there. So it's true a David versus Goliath story. So, but actually Eibar, believe it or not, they have more official fan clubs in Australia than FC Barcelona or Real Madrid. And every season that Eibar plays in La Liga is considered as a miracle. They call it the Eibar's miracle. So they've been now for 5 seasons in La Liga. And surprisingly, last weekend, actually, they beat Real Madrid 3-0 at home. And that was the first time in the history that they were able to beat the Blancos. So next question is, Athletic Bilbao is the only club other than Real Madrid and Barcelona that have never faced relegation in La Liga's top tier. True, false? So that is true, actually. Athletic Bilbao has been in the competition since the start. They are actually the fourth team with more leagues at La Liga. They have won the domestic competition 8 times. And the club is also unique in their transfer policy, where they only sign Basque players from the region, from the Basque country, or players who have been trained at the grassroots level in the country. So imagine it's a team like Bilbao playing in La Liga and competing on a regular basis in Europe with only players raised or trained in the home ground. Couple more questions. Jan Oblak has more clean sheets than goals conceded since 2014-15 season. That true? False? True? Well, again, the answer is true. And Oblak, the wall that he's known, has 72 clean sheets as compared to the 71 goals conceded in La Liga since the season 2014-15. So this one, I think, is going to be interesting. Luka Modric actually beat Alex Song. Well, sorry, the question in itself, it's that Luka Modric was voted as La Liga's worst signing in the season 2012. So is it that true? False? The answer is true. Luka Modric actually beat Alex Song, former FC Barcelona player, and received 32% of the votes. And he was regarded as La Liga's worst signing in a poll done by Spanish newspaper Marca. Obviously, today we are talking about the current winner of the FIFA Best Award and probably one of the top contenders for the next Ballon d'Or. And nobody can doubt of his quality. So for sure, one of my favorite players, probably because of his size as well. So the last one, let me show off a little bit here, perhaps. 14 out of the last European club trophies have been won by La Liga teams. Is that true or false? Did I hear false there? Well, it's actually true. Again, the last 5 Champions Leagues have been won by 4 by Real Madrid, 1 by FC Barcelona, 5 UEFA, the last UEFA Europa Leagues have been won, 3 by Seville and 1 Atletico Madrid, and the last 5 UEFA Super Cups have won by 3 Real Madrid, 1 FC Barcelona, and the current champion Atletico Madrid. So all have ended up in Spain. So, well, that was the end of the game, so I hope everybody has a little bit more knowledge about La Liga. And so now that we have warmed up a little bit, I will start with my actual sharing. So, while our teams have enjoyed success on the pitch, it has been a journey for us as a league to have similar success off the pitch. Today I will be sharing with all of you where La Liga has grown from, our global strategy, and why La Liga is an entire different game for us. So this was the situation back in 2013. To understand where we were, let's first do a throwback. So the financial situation in 2013, when President Javier Tebas first joined, was almost chaotic. The competition was running at a loss. The majority of clubs were deeply in debt. The visible impact of the financial results was lacking. Meager growth of revenue and serious doubts as to equity-related solvency and ultimately loss of viability and attractiveness at all levels. So in January 2013, the debt of the clubs with the Spanish tax authority was nearly 700 million euros. And today this figure is slightly above 200, so 200 million, which is almost a 65% decrease. And probably one of the key aspects, there was no consolidation of the media rights. So that really changed the game for us. So President Tebas had to embark on an in-depth financial re-engineering process, which was really necessary, but it had its difficulties. And it's not been an easy process, but La Liga enjoyed a significant growth in President Tebas' first term, and now into his second term, we have 6 strategic streamlines that we are focusing on. Sorry, I'm not sure if you can read this. Yes. So for the second term, from July 2016 to present, we are establishing a financial control and social eradication of violence and fight against match fixing, and as basis of our competition. So upon that, we will focus on improvement of the product and enhancing its relevance and the value of the audiovisual rights in particular, and of course, football as a business in general. So here are the 6 main strategic lines: enhancement of the audiovisual product, communication, high profile and social networks, internationalization, which is what brings me here today, business intelligence and analytics, as well as La Liga's brand image. Since its implementation, we have really experienced, like a big, like a change and impact in how our brand is received. So some key remarkable milestones, can be seen as a result of it. So in the 2016 season, these were some of the key milestones that I would like to highlight. But before the season starts, actually we broke the record for attendance at the stadiums as compared for the previous season, and that has been ever since, increasing season after season. So in September, it was effective the entry into force of all the collective audiovisual rights framework. Like I said before, that was really something that really changed the game, because all of a sudden we get, all the clubs at La Liga to get, around 60 to 65% of the split of the commercial rights, split equally. Then, of course, there is another 10% that is distributed according to performance. So in October, Javier Tebas renewed his mandate as president until 2020. In November, La Liga and Microsoft signed a global alliance to transform football fans' digital experience. So that was also crucial for us, because when we wanted to go into the internationalization of our brand, the main way that we identified is definitely going through digital. So that Microsoft and La Liga worked together to develop a very unique, a tool that allow us, to really identify what is our position in every market on the digital platforms, but as well, to have all the access to the different, key data and social listening, and identify what is the best way to also engage with the fans, together with some other tools that I'm going to share more with you later. So in December, it was announced the historical reduction of player complaints for non-payment, something that it was really a big problem for Spanish football. In January, La Liga was named the world's best football league at the Global Soccer Awards in Dubai. February, we opened our first office in Mexico. March last year, we opened La Liga office in Singapore as well as in India. And very important, it was also the month where the La Liga Global Network project started, a crucial project that I will share more with you shortly. And in April, La Liga took El Clásico to Thessalonica refugee camp in Greece for a public viewing with more than 10,000 refugees. And finally, in May, we presented one of our projects that I am most proud of. Is called La Liga Genuine, a league for people with intellectual disabilities that involves the vast majority of our clubs. However, one of the most important reasons why we said 2016-17 season was highly successful and on multiple levels was because of what the financial standings show at the end of the season. So in the 2016-17 season, 14.5 million people attended La Liga match in the stadiums, continuing an upward trend in attendance. That season summed up several consecutive years of financial and double-digit results with sustained improvement in earnings and consolidation of a financially sound competition. Also successful, of course, in the field of play. So the total revenue broke the euro 3.5 billion barrier for the first time, and our broadcast income grew almost 30% due to the selling of the collectively of our audiovisual rights. There was a growing importance of the competition in our national economy as a whole. In recent years, La Liga has grown at a rate of 5.5 times that of Spain as a whole. And as we step out of Spain, we had to look at key regions, and finally we started to look into the Asia market. So La Liga in Asia, from the very beginning, we understood that Asia is quite unique in that each market and audience are really quite different. Even though geographically distance between countries might not be much. Well, sorry for this doesn't really apply to Australia, but hence La Liga see this as a different ball game to what we are used to see back home. And that's why we are undertaking a global strategy. We try to implement those things that we know that it has always historically worked for us in Spain and in other markets, but at the same time we try to identify market by market what is the best way to engage with the different fan base that we have. So as I was mentioning before, we have this project that is called La Liga Global Network. The La Liga Global Network project is an ambitious and I would say quite unique initiative that represents our internationalization strategy. The network was actually conceptualized by our president, Javier Tebas, and the project basically consists in having almost 50, as of today, delegates sent across over the world to be based full-time in some of our key strategic countries or territories that we have identified. So under the office in Singapore, we have 12 markets that we have 10 delegates that cover these 12 markets. So as I was saying before, my colleague Glenn is our delegate here in Australia, looking also after New Zealand. And there are many key advantages to have someone full-time based in a market, and that goes from having a deep understanding of the market, of course, and that help us to define the best strategy, to being able to serve the different partners or stakeholders that we engage with in real time. Our delegates are also in charge of identifying multiple different opportunities that sometimes goes from different CSR opportunities, commercial opportunities, or even identifying the best way to work with the domestic top football organizations to see how we can work or collaborate together. It is extremely important for us to work very, very close with our broadcasters, of course, and to maintain this close relationship with them. And for example, one thing that we work together with beIN here in Australia for the last Clásico, we partnership together to bring a live viewing experience I think it was in Star Casino in Sydney. So it's the second year in a row that we are conducting this, and it was a very good partnership that also we work together with Foxtel. So actually, Australians really love La Liga here, and we saw that La Liga fans consume or watch our games for a total of 3 million viewing hours last season, and that was all on Foxtel. So these are just some examples on how close we like to work, together with our broadcasters in each of the markets. It's really important for us. So I'm going to use maybe Japan as an example of how we're working in the region. So Japan, a highly sophisticated Asian market with a culture so strong and widespread that has really tested ourselves to see how we can best get to that particular market. I worked 5 years in the past with a Japanese agency, so we know how particular the market is. So we have been able to develop a very good relationships with the J League, and other of the top organizations, football organizations. And this year we work very close with one of our clubs, Real Betis, before the start of the season. And they actually signed one of the top Japanese players, Inui, who was crucial for them for their performance at the last World Cup. So something quite unusual, we work with them. So instead of presenting Inui back in Spain, in Seville, what we decided to work with the Real Betis was to actually announce the signing of Inui in front of the Japanese fans and also the Japanese media. So that was something that was proved to work very well, and for Betis in particular, because before that they didn't have much of a fan base in Japan, and all of a sudden in the span of 3 days they had several millions of followers in the different social media in the local language that we worked together to launch in Japan. So something that worked very well as well with them was we partnered with Twitter, we organized some contests to be able to have some Japanese fans to fly to Seville with Inui. So still in Japan, during last season, while as an example of how you need to really put some thinking into it and see how you can really engage with the local fans in a particular destination. So during last season, while Inui was still playing at Eibar, we created some special marketing materials, more like in a manga style, which of course is very, very popular in Japan. And during what we call the Japanese derby, so it's basically when Inui at that time in Eibar played against Gaku Shibasaki, another Japanese who plays in Getafe at La Liga. So we launched a specific campaign in order to see how we can best engage with the Japanese fans. So these are just examples of how we try to work very close in each of the markets. So in general, we have two key initiatives that form the base of our local approach, something that is pretty standard in each of the markets that we step in. So number one would be try to sign MOUs or an official collaboration. Especially we prefer to work normally with a domestic league. We think that, of course, we have the know-how of running one of the top sports competition in the world. But our approach is not just to come here and say, okay, we are the best league and we know everything and we're going to teach you everything. So it doesn't work this way for us. I think one thing that it works very well for us is we try to share the best practices and on different areas that might be relevant for the domestic football. But in the end, we also try to learn what things work very well or what kind of challenges the local competition is facing in the country. So in the end, what we want is to make sure that we help to develop the local football, to grow the industry, and in the end, perhaps to stand a chance to get closer to the fans, because they see that we are here for a long term, not just coming here to knock on the door and look for the opportunity and go back home. So that's a little bit our approach. So the second area where we focus a lot is on grassroots. It's also really important for us, and our aim is to have La Liga academies. We have already 2-3 academies in this region, but this could take many forms, including a training camps, or sometimes trips to Spain for some of the different clubs or academies that we work with, or even just identifying local partners that they think there's a need or an opportunity for them to engage with La Liga. Of course, we also try to increase our revenues through commercial opportunities, but again, that our main business is obviously the distribution of the TV rights, but commercial opportunities is something that is there for sure, but it's not our main priority right now. So these are just some examples of some case studies, that some things that we have been working on that has been working pretty well in the region. So let's start off with a local commercial partner, a new sports prediction and real-time fantasy application, Sports Hero, that launched the application first in Indonesia, a few more countries to come, and in conjunction with us. And so far, it seems like it's been pretty successful. In only 1 month, the gross revenue generated was more than 130K, Aussie dollars. So one of our biggest disadvantages, or something that we try to work on the commercial aspect, is that if we compare ourselves with with the APL, for example, some of the top clubs in the APL, they have on average 10, 15, or even 20, commercial partners in Asia. So these commercial partners are the ones who really activate the assets. So for us, it's really important to start identifying some commercial partners that sometimes we can work with them also on a strategic basis, strategic partnerships, that can help us to activate some of our assets and increase our popularity in the region. So right now, for example, a lot of the times it's more La Liga who really carries, the burden or really invest on activating our own assets in the region. So something that we're looking to improve in the next years. So another, excellent, case study that we were able to work with is we had our first regional partner, which was also it's also, I think they also have a presence in most part of the region, but we partner with Southeast Asia's favorite right partner, Grab, and brought millions of fans closer to La Liga. They have a database of more than 65 million users, so it was very easy to engage with through this platform, and be able to get some of these fans, to stand a chance, an opportunity to go to Spain, while we also get, some very good exposure, across the multiple markets, which in the end, help us to close some of the last, commercial opportunities that we sign. So we are really proud, now, for example, we have closed a deal with Unilever a couple months ago. Unilever is going to be activating the brand, utilizing the Clear as a brand, and Unilever considers that this is an ideal platform to work with La Liga to fulfill their brands and allows them to bring the fans closer to a brand that is typically, giving them an opportunity to step into different markets that they really want to consolidate their presence. So we're going to be working with them in markets like China and India, Thailand, Vietnam, among some others. And this is our approach to brand building. The purpose is to bring the sharing to a close with focus on what sets La Liga apart, the heart. So at La Liga, we are very realistic and understand that in this region, the EPL is really strong. But at the same time, we also see it as an opportunity to close the gap. So we have only been here actively working for 1 season, but we have experienced an incredible growth in terms of followers. So we have increased 116%, in 1 year, audience and the different activations that we have been able to organize. So this can also be seen in the 30% audiovisual rights growth as compared to the 15% growth that we experienced at the national level. This has underscored the growing value of Spanish football and that our internationalization strategy has seen fruits in a relatively short time frame. So we are very optimistic that in the next few years we're going to be growing even much way bigger in different markets that as of today we still maybe number 2, number 3. So one of our main focus, especially for this 2018 and 19 season, has been to focus on the heartbeat and emotions of our fans and the audiences. So, for example, again in Japan, this year we held the very first La Liga club gathering. So we brought everyone from the different La Liga fan clubs represented in the country and created specific projects that we know that the Japanese like to engage. So that includes a Spanish La Liga course to learn Spanish with a curricula based on our clubs, stadiums, and cities. So the Japanese are very keen, very passionate about everything, surrounding Spain. So we took advantage of it. So on top of that, we have opened local accounts in Japanese for Twitter, Line, or Viber, which are the main platforms where you have to look if you want to engage with the local football fans in Japan. So we have also been, We have also been bringing fans together in another way. So we organize public viewing events for fans to catch some of our best matches inside of the different communities. So, for example, the last El Clásico, we were able to organize under our region public viewings in countries like Indonesia, Thailand, Singapore, Vietnam, and like I mentioned, even different scale, events. Like here in Australia, we also had one. In Indonesia, we had 2, one in Jakarta and one in Surabaya. In both of the events, we had over 5,000 to 10,000 fans attending to the event. So it's something that we're going to try to really, find different ways to get our football teams, closer to the fans in the region. And it's something that it's proven to be working, and it will help us also to promote some of our different brands at La Liga, the different clubs that they have a huge, history and also performing very well at the European level as well. So the likes of Atletico Madrid, Seville, or Valencia, or Villarreal, these clubs, also we want them to get more exposure. We know that Real Madrid and FC Barcelona, of course, they already have big names and they are very, very well recognized, but we want also to support some of our other clubs to even get a bigger exposure. So in Singapore this year, when Atletico Madrid were in town for the International Champions Cup, we arranged, a very nice, a CSR activity with a soccer team from Singapore that is a Cerebral Palsy Alliance, they called, and even having them to experience, Atletico Madrid match, and also taking them to the training session. So this was also because Atletico Madrid is one of these clubs that I mentioned to you that also have their own team that plays at the La Liga Genuine, so which is the very first competition created for people with intellectual disabilities. The tournament was created to normalize participation and with the belief that football is truly for everyone. So the tournament also allocates points as rewards for fair play and good behavior on part of the players, coaches, and supporters. So this is the kind of things that we also want to get, bring close to the society. So we want to be very inclusive. So that was a very good example. So just to conclude, on the topic.
How was Spain? It was great. The locals are a bit mad. They go crazy for football. And they do the weirdest things to bring their team good luck. Kids sign up as club members before they can even walk. They'd rather be late for a wedding than miss a game. And you know what? They don't just watch the game. They feel it. People cry when they lose, but they cry even more when they win. The most incredible thing, it's totally contagious. It's like when you watch a match, hey, vamos amigo! You become one of them. That can't be football. That's got to be something else.
Well, it's not football, it's La Liga. I hope it was a bit of an insightful presentation that to give you a glimpse of what we're doing in the region, but also how we move from just a very Spain or European focus strategy to start going international. So I'm sure you're gonna be seeing and listening more about us, very often. So thank you, everybody. And if you have any questions, I'll be around later, so I'm happy to answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Ivan. You can answer those questions in the Telstra Lounge.